All right, everyone, we're a couple minutes past the top of the hour, so I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time and we get things started. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Andrew McDougall. I'm on the marketing team here at Proof, and I'm incredibly excited to welcome you to today's webinar, which is called Trust from Start to Finish: How Proof and SoftPro Secure the Entire Closing Process. A lot of you probably heard that we have a really exciting enhanced integration with SoftPro that was released at the end of January. That is the crux of the discussion today. So we're really excited to dive into that and tell you all the great things that have come with that enhanced integration. And our team knows that you've got a lot going on. Hopefully, you all had a really strong end of month in January. There are plenty of things you can be doing with your hour. We want to be really respectful of that over the next 60 minutes. And we're really excited about all the content that we have to share with you. So before we kick things off, just a couple of housekeeping slides to keep us all oriented, make sure we all have the best experience possible. So first, this webinar is being recorded. We'll share it with you all after the fact. If you have to jump early for whatever reason, or you want a second chance to view the content, or you want to share this with a colleague, you'll have the opportunity to do that. So don't worry, we'll get this recording into your hands. You should see a chat feature on the Zoom toolbar. We ask that you use that to engage with our team when it comes to today's presentation, as far as like any technical issues you may have. A lot of you were really kind to make sure that I could be heard when I entered the room. So if you have any technical difficulties or anything like that, please drop them in the chat. We'd be more than happy to address those as they come up. If you have questions about the presentation, or you want to learn more about the things that we present on today, there is a separate Q&A section. When we get to the live Q&A portion of today's presentation, that is where we're going to focus a lot of our attention. So if you put something in the chat, it may just get lost through the natural discourse that goes on. We ask that you move it to the Q&A chat if possible. That gives it the highest chance of actually being answered by our panelists. And at the end, there will be a brief survey about today's webinar. If this is your first time participating in a Proof webinar, welcome. We love surveys. We love polls. We're actually going to do a poll in a minute. But it helps us build content that's relevant to you, that matters to you, that keeps you coming back. And so we greatly value your opinion in that way. So please make sure that you make your voice heard. So what can you expect over the next hour? I'm going to turn things over in a moment to Eddie Otto, who is our real estate expert. He's going to talk about the Proof and SoftPro enhanced integration, give you an overview of the solutions that are not only available to you in general, but are things that you can stand up today and start acting on today, which is really exciting. Just touch on the growing threat of fraud that we're facing in the industry. It's something that we know you all are acutely aware of in this space. But we're going to share kind of how we're looking at it from the Proof side of things. We will then do a product demo. Kurt Hubner from our side, and we have Alex Drake from the SoftPro side, who's kind enough to join us, who will walk us through the experience of what it's like to create an identity verification transaction from within SoftPro, how to stand up this integration if this is your first time using Proof and SoftPro together. So they're going to have a ton of the great details that you need to get your Proof and SoftPro integration instance off the ground. We'll begin with our real estate lead, Eddie Otto. So Eddie, as long as you can see the screen, the floor is yours.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Andrew. So kicking it off, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank SoftPro for being such a great partner over the years. Alex, you're here as our SoftPro representative, so I'll just direct it to you. You can share it with the rest of the team. But we've been solid and great partners since 2020. So we were formerly known as Notarize and now known as Proof. We rebranded last year or 2 years ago, actually. But our online notarization platform is still known as Notarize. So just noting that longtime partnership with SoftPro. And what we're announcing today and sharing with you all is an enhanced integration with SoftPro, which we just launched last month, of our sign and identify products. That's why we're all here. So next slide, Andrew. So just a quick overview of these different products for those of you who are not aware, but Notarize, of course, is remote online notarization. This is a category that's picked up a lot of steam over the past number of years. And we are Proof is the category leader with our Notarize product. Next. Identify, which Kurt is going to highlight, and Alex through the integration. Identify is one of our newer products, and this is really to address fraud and other use cases in the not just real estate space, but across multiple verticals that Proof serves, including healthcare, auto, financial services, investment companies, you name it. And Kurt's going to go through the details, but at a high level, we validate that there is an identity, and we verify that the person claiming that identity actually owns it. And there's a number of ways that we can do that, which we will demo. But that is our Identify product in generically known as identity verification. Next is Sign, which is our e-sign product. So this is very similar to other e-sign platforms out there that I'm sure you've heard of, DocuSign or Adobe Sign or HelloSign or you name it. Proof Sign is an e-sign solution. And lastly, Andrew, you can combine Sign and Identify to get identity verified e-signatures. So in the event you want to first make sure that that's the right person, that there is an actual identity, that the person signing owns that identity, and then that signature is encrypted and digitally connected to that identity, you can combine Sign and Identify. And it's super easy to do. You'll see in the demo in just a couple of minutes. So I wanted to point out a few different use cases, and I won't read through all of these, but you can see different use cases and different times you might use each of these different products. And we've also laid out down in the timeline below how you can use these throughout the life cycle of a transaction, of your purchase transaction, of any type of closing that you're doing. We recommend early and often. And then what I mean by that is checking identity at open order with our Identify tool and verify that your seller is who they say they are. Throughout the process, if someone has to change, if they change their wiring instructions and where their proceeds are going, that's where you may want to have them execute a wire authorization change form. And you can, again, double check and make sure that they own that identity as they sign that document. Of course, at the closing or through your curative process for your deeds, affidavits, and other documents that need notarization, including the whole closing package, that's where Notarize comes in as your online notarization solution. And at any time throughout the process, before, after, or otherwise, if you have these ancillary documents that need execution, or maybe it's just a full cash buyer package where there's nothing that needs to be notarized, that's where it's handy to use our e-sign solution called Sign. So a number of different places, like I said, early and often, you can use Proof to protect your transaction really from start to finish. And really, Andrew, let's hop to the next slide. The crux behind our branding change from Notarize to Proof is because of how much business is done online, how little interaction, physical or face-to-face, in-person interaction that businesses have with their customers anymore. And that doesn't increase the risk necessarily, but it's evolved how fraudsters attack businesses. So you're all aware of seller identity fraud. It's rampant on vacant land or any non-owner occupied properties. $81 billion in fraud caused by forged documents and identity theft, including identity impersonation fraud or seller impersonation fraud. And in the home buying process, fraud has just grown astronomically, and it keeps going up. So, yes, it's evolving, it's growing, and we've come out with additional tools beyond just online notarization, like Identify, to help you defend yourself throughout the entire process. And just like our online notarization platform, it is incredibly simple to use for both you and for your buyers, sellers, and borrowers. And Kurt and Alex are going to show you just how simple, or even simpler, it is if you're a SoftPro user and a proof account holder, how you can launch all of our products that I just went through right from your SoftPro screens. So, Kurt, Alex, I will turn it over to you guys, and I will stand by.
Thanks, Eddie. Well, again, thank you all for your time. Nice to meet you all. My name is Kurt Hubner, member of the Solutions Consulting team here at Proof. And as Eddie and Andrew mentioned, I'm going to be walking through a live demo of our products today, setting them up in SoftPro, being assisted by Alex Drake from the SoftPro team. So I'm going to take over our screen share here. And you should be able to see my screen on the Proof portal here. So what I wanted to start off with is showing you how you are going to set up the SoftPro and Proof integration. So we'll cover kind of basics of pricing, getting started later if you're not already a Proof customer. But once you are, you'll be able to log into your Proof account at app.proof.com. And then there's just a couple of basic steps you'll need to follow to set up the integration. So you will need to obtain an API key, which just gets inputted in one simple step in SoftPro. And the way you can do that is by selecting Settings on this left navbar, scrolling down to API keys, and selecting Generate Full Access Key. That'll generate a new key. You can click the copy icon here to get it added to your clipboard, and that's all you need to do in Proof. Now, you might say, hey, Kurt, I don't see the API keys option when I click on settings. That would indicate that you are just not a user with the right permissions. This API key setting can only be accessed by the owner of the organization or administrators. And you can check what users are owners and administrators by selecting users, organization users, and you can look up your email here. So if you don't see that option, don't worry. You might just need to reach out to a member of the team that's in the product here and is listed as an admin or owner. So again, that's settings, API keys, generate full access key. So I'm going to copy that new key, swap over to SoftPro here, and then we're going to complete the setup. So you'll see here, I just have a sort of dummy order set up. And what I'm going to do to access our integration is I'm going to select the 360 menu, Services, and then under Settlement Services, you'll find Proof. We can double click that to open it. And you'll be given a little basic welcome screen here explaining how the integration works and what you can do. You can optionally skip that so it doesn't appear on future uses. And if it's your first time logging in, again, you'll need to put in that API key. So you'll select that login option at the top right, and then just paste in the API key we copied from Proof. You'll check that Remember Me box, and that'll make sure that every time you come into user integration, you don't need to follow these same steps again. You can just jump right into creating your transactions. So I'll select OK, save that. It'll run a quick validation to make sure the connection's OK, and then you are ready to start sending. So with that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Alex, who's going to talk about setting up our Identify transaction.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt. All right. So I have similarly set up a demonstration order with Kurt, just some basic information enough to get the Proof transaction to go through. And as you had seen with Kurt's demonstration, to access Proof, you would go up to the 360 tab under the Services menu, and then under Settlement Services, you will find Proof. So if I go ahead and double click Proof, I had actually skipped the welcome screen. If you come back to the welcome screen, there is a small checkbox here if you'd like to skip that in the future. But I would recommend reading through this. It is a lot of great information. So now that we're in the launcher or the product management, as it says here, you will notice in the bottom left, there's an add button. This is to add a new product. So after clicking there, you'll be given four options. Eddie had discussed these briefly. There is the online notarization, there's identity verification, e-sign, and then the combination of the two. Today's demonstration will be focused on the identity verification and the e-sign. So we'll begin with the e-sign, the identity verification. And so once we click there, you will notice that we have drawn in all of the contacts capable of being a signer into the integration already directly from your SoftPro order. You'll notice over here, this recipient's screen might look a little bit familiar if you use the notarization integration, but we have all of these listed and this new column for identity verification. If you go ahead and select this dropdown, you will notice that there are 5 different options, and today's option we'll be selecting is the credential analysis and selfie. If you are ever missing any information, you will notice on the right-hand side that there is a small warning sign that just tells you that there's information that is missing before we're able to submit this to proof. If you ever have a question on what information is missing, you will notice that these names are hyperlinked. So if I click on any one of these names, I can see which information is missing here. So Bonnie Buyer here is missing an email address and a phone number. So I would need to go back to my SoftPro order to correct those before I'm able to submit this request. But Sally Seller here is ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and select Sally Seller under the credential analysis and selfie, and I'm going to go ahead and click submit. So as a SoftPro user, that would be your experience to check the identity of Sally Seller. Now I would like to go ahead and pass the screen along to Proof, to Kurt specifically, and he's going to be showing you the user experience.
All right, thanks, Alex. So we're going to let that flow through. And then what's going to happen shortly is that I'm going to receive an email as the seller, and I'll be able to initiate the identity verification. So just give me one moment here to pull that up. Awesome. Great. So as I mentioned here, now that Alex has sent that identify transaction to me, I'm putting on my hat as our seller in this case, and I've been notified that, hey, I've been requested it to do an identity verification. I'll get a basic email that just walks me through what to expect with this process, how it works, and what I need to be successful. I'll click Get Started. And then if it's my first time accessing the platform as a signer or an end user, I'll need to set a password. And then I can jump directly into the verification process. So again, it just gives you some basic steps on what's going to happen next. And typically we see these verifications take only about 5 minutes to perform, depending on the types of checks you select in that product screen in SoftPro. So I'll click Begin Verification. And what I'll need to do here is I just need to confirm some basic info up front before the actual verification start. So you'll see here, it's automatically pulled in my first and last name from SoftPro. I'll need to add a date of birth. And then it will also pull in my street address from the SoftPro file that is listed there as my primary mailing address. Perfect. So now we can do the actual verification. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this off on my desktop browser. All of this can be done directly on a mobile device. You don't need to download an app. It's all compatible with just our web browsers on our phones. And if someone were to go through this on the desktop, we are actually going to have them refer over to a smartphone for the actual photo capture portions of this. And that's just because our webcams these days are typically not as good as our phone cameras. So it just helps capture a clear image and make sure that there's no issues with verification. But for the demo today, I'll go through this all live on my desktop. So you'll see here, I just need to select what form of ID I'm using to verify my identity. So in this case, we'll say I'm using a US passport. And we do have support for verifications for folks that don't have, let's say, a US identity document. We support all of the common major international IDs, typically a passport and a driver's license for most countries. Accept the terms, and then we will capture some images. So I'm not going to actually capture images of the photo and signature page of my passport here, just the front and back, because we are in a demo environment. But what would happen here is you'll see I got that faint outline of a face, and the bottom line of that page. So once it detects that is in focus, it'll automatically capture that image, and then it'll prompt me for a picture of our signature page. Just give it a moment here since it's not going to detect the actual signature. And what it's going to do with these verifications is we're looking at a number of security features. So are all those security features present? Do we see a photo ID on this page? Do we see the watermarks we would expect? In the cases where there's a barcode on the type of document you're using, can we extract the details from that barcode, and does it match the details we extract from the document itself? And then we're going to perform a selfie verification. And so this selfie verification is a multi-step verification as well. It's going to be one, just checking authenticity of that image. So is Kurt actually appearing on the camera in front of the screen? Do we see suspicious lighting conditions? Indications that that is a static image, or a series of images that are being injected as opposed to Kurt actually sitting in front of his webcam. So it's going to ask me to take my photo here, center myself on the screen, and we'll play around, move left and then right, and it'll capture a series of images as I turn my face, and that's to, again, make sure I'm actually appearing in front of that camera. It's also going to reference that selfie against the ID image that we just presented. So is Kurt appearing in front of the camera the same person as Kurt on that ID? And that's it. We're done. So we've completed the verification. And at this point, as our seller, I'm free to walk away, close out the browser, and Alex is going to walk through how you can actually view those results within SoftPro. So I will stop the share.
All right. Thanks, Kurt. All right. So as Kurt had mentioned, now that your seller has completed their identity verification, I have not closed down this integration just yet, but in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a refresh button. And what this will do, we'll call the proof system and get the current status of that order. So I'll go ahead and click refresh. All right, it looks like we have a status of completed here. So before I go ahead and accept this document, I will show you that right here is what we have, what we call an action button. Clicking this within the integration will launch the review screen, allowing you to accept any information that's in there. Not everybody always has the integration open, nor do we want you to need to go into the integration every time to check the status of an order. So as you SoftPro users might be familiar with, in your SoftPro 360 queue, we will have our proof settlement down here, and that status is also now updated, and that is in ready. So if you see it in your SoftPro 360 queue, you can go ahead and press next step. This will also produce the review screen. So by either method, if we produce the review screen, we can see that proof has delivered the identity or the proof identity report, and we've got ahead and made sure that it's selected. We can view from here, but I'm just going to go ahead and accept this into my order. So now we've pulled that directly from Proof System into our SoftPro order. And if I go into my order tab under attachments, we'll see that identity report right here waiting for you right within your file. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up so we can just take a brief look at this, and Kurt can go ahead and expand on this as well. But this is the brief report that you have, and it tells you who the identity verification was done for, the phone number that they've done, and the verification method as well. So when we come down here to the attempts, you can see what information was submitted, the verification method, and then the outcome. So we see here that Kurt has passed both the credential analysis and the selfie comparison. All right, and I believe that that is all.
Yeah, great.
So
You took the words out of my mouth, Alex. So that identity report, what we think of that is it's the portable evidence that those verifications occurred. So you could always log in, get those same results from proof, but this is a document that you can have, as Alex is going to show, accept into the file, and then you have it for future reference. So if there is an issue in the future where an identity is called into dispute, you can reference this exact document. And this is actually tamper sealed as well. So if someone were to pull this up in an Adobe reader or another PDF viewer, they're going to see that, yep, this document was actually generated by proof. It is authentic. And again, it details that full record of how many attempts did that user take to pass this transaction, what verification methods were performed, and what details did they provide at each step. And we've got some questions coming in here that I think are actually great to answer live right now as it relates to the identity report. So from Kristen, so one of the questions was, when the seller has completed their ID verification, do I get any sort of email notification outside of SoftPro Select so I don't have to check the queue for status? So if you're an admin or an owner on the account, you will actually get a notification saying, yep, this person's completed their verification. Just do the method of using that API key that's not tied to any individual user. You would need to be set up either as an owner or admin, or there's actually a feature where we can get you onto that sort of email list if you reach out to our support team. So great question. Another one from Kristen. Do we get a copy of the ID that they presented? Yes. So we do retain copies of those IDs. You would need to log into Proof, and we would need to talk about our defend feature. That's where you'd be getting additional information in our identity tab. And you'll actually see that today. If you were to go to any transaction, select that identity tab for a closing you've completed, you'll get a little more information about IDs provided for notarization, but for these identified transactions, it's specific to our defend product. Question from Julie. So what if their main address doesn't match the address on the ID? Will they fail? That's a great question. So typically, yes, we are looking for a match between the addresses. So typically what a user is going to do is they're going to provide their most up-to-date home address, and then that's in most cases going to match what they have on their ID. There's tons of scenarios where that may not be the case. So let's say I just moved, I'm purchasing a new home, I'm selling a home. And so my address, that's my current mailing address, is still a little out of date on my ID. That is typically going to be okay. It's just one of many checks. And depending on how many other checks kind of pass or fail, that would determine the overall pass-fail status of that credential analysis. So that's just one facet of many. It's not a hard blocker in most cases. Awesome. So I'm going to pause on that and hand it back to you, Alex, just for a moment.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt. So the next item on our list is we would like to walk through the e-sign feature with you guys. So once again, if I go into the 360 tab under the services menu, which is a small tab right here, I will be re-entering the proof integration. And we can see that there's my identity verification for Sally Seller and his status of completed. So if I go ahead and click add, we'll be selecting the e-sign product today. And you will notice that this is also very similar to the Notarize product, but it doesn't have as many fields because not as many are needed for this e-sign procedure. So I'll go ahead and enter the name of my package, which will be test package today. I can associate which property that it's with. It will default. As of right now, I only have one property in my file. And then if I want to associate this with a loan, I can do so as well. If there are any notes I need to leave to the signer, I can pass those along to proof. And then also down here at the bottom, we have an e-sign window start date and also an expiration date. So if for any reason these documents were to expire or needed to be signed by a specific time, you can go ahead and enter an expiration date. But until then, we leave that blank for your guys' convenience. So once I click next, you will once again, we have the recipient screen or see the recipient screen minus that identity verification column. So once again, we have the same functionality. We have the same error warning, the same capability of clicking onto the hyperlinked names to see what information may be missing. And we'll go ahead and select Sally Seller for this demonstration. All right. And so you might also be familiar with this screen for the document selection and submission. I'm going to go ahead and browse for our test document here. We've got a proof e-sign test demo document. And you'll see that the requirement here will default to e-sign, and that will be the only option on the dropdown since this is the e-sign product. Finally, before I go ahead and send these, we've got two options down here. We are able to review the document on Proof's website prior to submitting for signing, or we can go ahead and submit the package without review. For this demonstration, we'll be submitting without review, and it is on the way. All right, and once this falls through, Kurt will be demonstrating once again the user experience from their perspective.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So As we mentioned earlier, this will just take a moment to pass those documents over to Proof, and then I'll be able to just jump into this directly, either logged in from my Signer account previously or through that email that I'm about to receive. So just give me one moment for that to hit my inbox. Perfect. All right. So if I were going through this process in my email, as I mentioned, I would get an email just like what I received and showed off for that identity transaction. In this case, I'm already logged in actually as a signer here. So I'm going to show you what that looks like to select it from our signer dashboard. But again, process is the same through the email. They'll receive an email with those basic instructions, click to start, and if they have an account, they'll log in. So I will take over from here. And we'll get to signing. So you'll see I have a new e-sign transaction that prompts me to sign. And when I click sign, I'm taken directly into the signing window where I can get started. And we give users some helpful tooltips here to help them navigate through these documents. So let's say this wasn't just a simple one-page document with filler information. It was a longer, more complex document, and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to sign. I can click this start button, and it's going to take me down right to where these designations are, and I can start clicking to fulfill them. And you'll see here, we have this already preset up with date tag, signature, and Proof does have a number of options for how you can prep these. If you're curious, you can look at that up in our help center, but there's options that involve tagging your documents up front in sorts of generation in SoftPro, and then there's also systems that you can use to manually review and prep these before sending, as Alex showed off. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click to fulfill these. And you'll see, because it's my first time coming through as a signer, I'm asked to adopt an electronic signature and agree that that's binding. So I can select that signature from a number of options, or I could draw it out manually if I want to. We'll create and apply that. And then that's applied on the page, and you'll see our complete signing button here is done. So what would happen if this is a multiple document transaction is I would complete the signing on this document and it would seamlessly move into the next document. We also have a page navigation feature here that allows signers to easily look through what's in this document. If there's multiple documents here, they would also be able to page through those. I'm going to go ahead and complete the signing. And again, it's just that simple. I'm all set here, and it's let me know that I finished signing. I can obviously view a copy of that document as our signer here, download a version for my own records. But just as before, you're going to have the option to automatically pull this back into the order in SoftPro. So I will hand it back to Alex to finish us off.
Thanks again, Kurt. All right, and as Kurt had mentioned, and you guys have seen before, this is an incredibly similar process. We have our test package right here in a status of sent. So I will go ahead and select the refresh button. All right, and it's updated our package status to completed. Once again, both methods of accepting this package will apply both from the 360 queue or if you have the integration open. So I'll be demonstrating the integration open method today. Once again, if you just click this little stack of paper here on the left-hand side, that will produce the review screen. Once again, very similar. We've got our view. If you would like to view it, we can select it and unselect it to bring it into the file. And then we have the name of the document here as well. So when I go ahead and accept this, once again, as you can see, it was already on the screen. We've got a status of completed. We can close the integration, and now you have a copy that has been directly delivered to your SoftPro file. So if I go ahead and open this, you will see it is an exact duplicate of what Kurt had just shown us, and it is now available for your use. All right, I will go ahead and pass this back to Kurt. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to demonstrate today.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So just taking over from here. So I just wanted to just give some brief words, again, talking about this integration and talking about how you can get started if you're not already a Proof user. So as we mentioned at the top of this, if you're not familiar with Proof, we are more than just an identity verification provider. We started as Notarize, as Eddie mentioned, and we really pioneered the category of remote closing and remote online notarization. So we performed the first ever end-to-end online closing. And we have a network of over 4,000 notaries that are ready to serve your closings today. And that has coverage 24/7, 365. So let's say you want to use your own notaries, fall back to ours, or just use our notaries for all scenarios. Those are all options, and all of that comes with a great customer experience. Um, as Eddie alluded to earlier, this is all part of this wider platform. So as we've been looking to address the issues of identity fraud across real estate, across banking, across so many industries, we've massively expanded our product offering in the last 2 years. So you're familiar with Notarize probably. A lot of the folks on here, it sounds like, are current Proof users that may or may not use us for closings, either all the time or when they can. And that is a platform that is available and is really one of the cornerstones. And again, powered by so many automated compliance rules to make sure that all of the details related to that closing is maintained. E-recording is seamless, and it's a great experience for your buyers and sellers. We showed off our Sign and Identify products today. And then we also have our Verify product, which we're not showing off today, but is a more advanced solution for folks that need to default to a live verification with a human agent. Verify is our new option that we'll be rolling out over the coming weeks and months. And underpinning all of that, we have Defend. I briefly mentioned that earlier, but what Defend is it's a platform that allows for continuous risk signal monitoring as folks complete these transactions. So there's nothing you need to do if you're interested in using Defend other than to reach out to our sales team and have a conversation. We can turn it on for you there. And then once it's enabled, it's going to monitor and provide a layer of defense on all of your transactions. And as we go through the notarization process, the e-signature process, the identity verification process, if we find details that are concerning, we surface them to you in Defend. And then Command Center is our enterprise management tool for large title organizations, multi-office that need the ability to manage users across all of those different offices, apply settings, and more. So just quickly recapping, you can, again, set this up by going into your settings, logging in and creating a new API key. And this is just a screenshot of what you might see if you don't have the permissions to do that. So logged in from a team member's perspective, you'll see here, I only have that users option, and I can see who the owners and admins that would have that capability are just by selecting users and then looking for anyone with that owner or admin role. Awesome. So if you're interested in getting started, I am happy to announce that we are offering complimentary Identify transactions through this integration through the end of March. So there's a great offer if you want to get started, trial it, see the value it provides. And you can get started today if you're an existing customer. You should have access to our new API key feature if that wasn't previously available to you as a pro user. And then our premium and enterprise users should already have access to that API key. So you can generate that API key today, pop that into the Proof Settlement Services option in SoftPro, and you're off to the races. If you're new to Proof, you can go ahead and go to proof.com/softpro or scan the QR code on screen, and we'll leave this up as we do Q&A, and you'll be able to sign up and learn more.
So we thank you again for taking the time, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thanks, everyone.